So today, what I want to review how to do is how to read nutrition labels. And the reason that I want to do this is I just did it with a client that I work one-on-one with. And she was, especially over the summer, was having some trouble just cooking at home. So, what's the next best thing? And I don't want you to feel confined. I don't want you to feel like you always have to cook at home. I don't want that to add stress to your life. So, there is obviously the alternative of buying prepared meals. But what we want to do is I want to prepare you. I want to give you the tools so that when you go out into the grocery store, or even when you order food online, because there's a lot of really amazing meal prep services, I want you to feel prepared for it. I want you to be able to make the right decisions so that you don't feel lost. What I did for this client is I went to the grocery store that I know that she shops at, and this worked nicely because she works in the same city as I do. So I just went to the grocery shop and I looked at any ready-made meals in the freezer section. And I took pictures of the nutrition labels, and then I did some calculations. And those are the calculations that I want to be doing with you. Okay, so can you see this now? So this is chicken with, what was it? Chicken with pesto and vegetables, okay? So what I want you, before we start with the actual calculations of the nutrition label, these are the things that you need to keep in mind. As the Smarter Fat Loss System, we're focused on macronutrients more than individual ingredients and all that. So for the Smarter Fat Loss System, this is from week 2. So if you want to go back into the membership site and look at the program overview, I believe it's called the program overview, but it is week 2 for sure. That's when all of this is listed. So you're aiming for a balance of macronutrients from your daily calories. 60% of your daily calories should come from fat, 20% of your daily calories should come from protein, and 20% of your daily carbohydrates, 20% of your daily calories should come from protein. Okay, so 60, 20, 20. That's what we're aiming for. 60 fat, 20 protein, 20 carbs. The other thing that you need to keep in mind for this, and this is in your module for learning to track your macronutrients, is that 1 gram of fat equals 9 calories. Okay, 1 gram of fat equals 9 calories. 1 gram of protein equals 4 calories, and 1 gram of carbohydrates equals 4 calories. Okay, so fat, 1 gram of fat, 9 calories, 1 gram of protein, 4 calories, 1 gram of carbohydrates, 4 calories. We're not into counting calories, but we need to know that so that we can calculate the percentage of nutrients in these foods. And it sounds super complicated, and it sounds like, oh, geez, Natalie, are you gonna make me do math now? But this is actually super simple to do. And that's why I want to do this with you. And you obviously don't want to do this for all the things that you're always going to eat. But when it comes to having backup, if you have a week where it's going to be crazy and you're not going to get to cook dinner, then go grocery shopping, get some ready-made meals and put them in your freezer, or always keep some. I always have food in my freezer, because there's many times when I don't feel like cooking, but I know that my freezer has my back, okay? So, and for me, it's things that I just thaw really quickly. I always have broccoli. I always have some salmon, right? And I always tell you guys this, but this is, for me, it's really a game changer to have food in my freezer. So if this is something that you want to work on so that you can cut some corners, then this is the way to do it, okay? So let's see this chicken with pesto and veggies. Now, these are the things that you need to do. And I really recommend that you write this down, that you do the calculations with me, because when you do the calculations with me, it's easier for you to learn this, okay? So Let me see. And just kind of double checking to make sure there's no questions on, there we go. So the first thing you need to look at, the total calories in this meal, okay? And make sure also what you always want to look is the total calories that they list in the back. Is that per portion or is it for the entire box? Okay, because they might just be listing it per portion and there's like 5, or like per serving, and there's 5 servings in the box, and you're eating the entire box because you think like that's what I'm supposed to, when in reality, like you're only counting the nutrients for like 1 serving. Okay, so that's one thing. But so this one contains, so this is 1 full entree, and the calories, the total calories for this entree is 190. That's actually really low. Okay, so our total calories is 190. Then let's look at fat. The calorie, there's 4.5 grams of fat in this meal. Okay, what about carbs? There are 10 grams of fat, of carbs in this meal, but there's 5 grams of fiber. So half of those carbohydrates are fiber. And so we want to look at net carbs. And net carbs, we look at net carbs because fiber is a carbohydrate that it just goes through your body. It really just helps move food through your body. It actually helps move toxins through your body. Fiber is really great for your metabolism. It's super anti-inflammatory. So that's a really good thing. 5 grams of fiber is like, that's the minimum that you want to go for in every meal. So net carbs means you take the total carbs and you subtract the fiber from that. And I usually don't look at this too much, but in this case, it's like 50% of the carbohydrates are fiber. So in reality, there's only 5 grams of carbohydrates in this food that you are going to be metabolizing, okay? And then protein, there's 28 grams of protein in here, okay? So this is what we want to do. Per gram of fat, remember how many calories are in 1 gram of fat? There's 9 calories in 1 gram of fat, right? But we don't have 1 gram of fat, we have 4.5 grams of fat. So we take the fat content and we multiply that by 9. And that gives us 40. Let's just call it 40. It's 44.5, but we don't need to be that specific. So there's 40 calories coming from fat out of this product, okay? Then carbohydrates. 1 gram of carbohydrates have 4 calories. So we have 5 grams, so we need to multiply 5 by 4. And I know I could be doing this in my head, but I want to spare myself any embarrassment by doing like little mistakes. And I want this to really be the step-by-step process that you do. Just take out the calculator. It's super simple to do. And again, you don't have to do this all the time, because once you find the food that you know is okay for you, then you can just go back and repurchase it, right? Easy peasy. So protein, we have 28 grams of protein. 1 gram of protein is equal to 4 calories. So we take 28 and we multiply that by 4, and that gives us 112 calories, okay? Now, remember that our total calorie count was 190. So we now want to look for the percentages, because we want to see where within the percentages that we're aiming for to eat 60% of our daily calories coming from fat, 20% of our daily calories coming from protein, and 20% of our daily calories coming from carbs. We want to see how this meal measures up to that, okay? So we're going to take the 40 calories that we get from fat and divide that by the 190 total calories in the meal. And that's going to give us the percentage of fat in this meal. So 40 divided by 190, so 20, so we multiply the result by 100, but 21% of calories in this meal come from fat. And remember, we're aiming for 60. So there's some wiggle room in here. It doesn't mean that this is a bad thing, but there's wiggle room, okay? So we got 20 calories from carbohydrates, and the total calories is 190. So we divide 20 calories from carbohydrates divided by the 190 total, and you times that by 100, and that gives you about, let's just keep the numbers simple, 10. So 10% of the calories in this meal come from carbohydrates, okay? And what we're aiming for is 20. So this is even below that, what we're aiming for. And let's see here, 28 grams from protein, and that equaled 112 calories. So 112 calories divided by the total calories of 190. So you can tell right away it's a really high protein meal. So about 59, let's just round it for like, make it eat, or okay, 59% of calories come from protein. So we're aiming for 20% of protein, right? We're aiming for 20% of protein. So you know what this meal is? This meal is the typical healthy weight loss meal where they totally cut back on fat, which is what makes it tasty, which is what makes you satisfied. And fat actually helps your metabolism. It helps create your hormones. Yeah, so fat, and it keeps you feeling full for longer. But they kind of try to stay really low on the fat here, okay? And they really up the protein, because that's what the typical mainstream weight loss meal looks like. So what do we do here? 28 grams of protein is actually kind of what you should be aiming for to have within each meal, right? 25 to 28 grams of protein, that's kind of the ballpark for every meal you should be having. So there's actually a good amount of protein in here. You know, 10% of the calories coming from carbohydrates, that's not too bad. So you actually have some wiggle room. Let's say that if you want to have this as your dinner, you could even have some chocolate as dessert, because you have some more room for a little bit more carbohydrates in there. So just have some dark chocolate for dessert, or have like a low sugar wine, right? Because you can still, it's 10% of the calories are carbohydrates, and you know that you're okay with 20 if you're following the Smarter Fat Loss system. And then fats, we're aiming for 60%, but this meal has 21% of its calorie coming from fats. So there's a whole lot of things that you can still add to make this meal even more delicious. So the meal is supposed to be like a chicken pesto vegetable thing. If you want, you can add your own pesto, because that's an oil-based thing. So you can add even more sauce to it. If you want, you know, you can, I would add an avocado to it. So that would be my go-to. I would maybe add a little bit more pesto and have an avocado to it. And that would just make it a fuller meal for me. And it would just be a lot more satisfying, because, you know, if you look at it, it does kind of, it does look like one of those, here, I'm bringing the picture up again. It looks like a weight loss meal, right? they kind of tried to make it look a little bit tempting. I think they made it look like there's a white sauce on it. So that's the other thing that you could do. You could add some cheese on it to add more fat to it. And if you know, so that could be something that makes it a little bit more satisfying. So those are the options. That's why it's kind of nice to see, how do you calculate the macronutrients within that meal so that you can make it your own. If there's wiggle room for more, or if you just want to eat it that way, then that's fine as well.